So it's been about 2 months now since my last park run, and I'm going to the same place as I did my last one, at Coronation Park, my local. I thought it'd be a good idea to get running amongst people again. Been doing a bit of running over the last few months, but it's only really been a couple of times a week and just easy pace running, so we'll see how this morning goes. Might get carried away going a little bit quicker at parkrun, but I still like to keep it nice and within myself, but I'm not really putting any strain on my hip.
And we are off at Coronation Parkrun. So I'm just tucked in behind first place here. I started right at the front and I'm around second and third at the moment with a few people running across me. So this is Ryan, who did eventually finish in first, and that's about as close as I got to him. He did just disappear slightly and slightly further into the lead as we go on. Probably about a mile in now, so just coming to the corner where Naomi is, and then you'll head on to the main sort of section of the park run there. You then join me a bit later on, I think this was the second lap, so I was feeling pretty comfortable at this pace. And then we're coming into the turnaround at the end of the second lap, so there's one more lap to go here, just under a mile to go, and I looked around at this point, felt that I was quite a way in front of third place, so I could relax a little bit going into the finish now. So this is coming into the finish of lap 3, the end of the park run, and just crossing the line in a time of 20:37.
Hold on, mate. Thank you.
Good job.
Yes.
So let's wind back and talk about how we actually got here, because this hasn't been a quick 2-month blip. It's been quite a long, frustrating saga, going back almost way over a year now. So I first noticed this hip issue all the way back in June of last year. So initially I took a standard 3-week rest period, which in all honesty didn't really resolve the problem. I tried to gradually rebuild and pushed ahead to run a marathon in December, but this just wasn't possible for me. I got to the start line, I got to 19 miles and ended up DNFing the marathon, which wasn't ideal. So when the new year rolled around, I tried to get back into training again before taking a strict 1-month rest period at the end of January through to the end of February. And then around that time, I booked myself in for an MRI scan. So thankfully it showed no structural concerns. So the things that it could have picked up were things like a stress fracture, stress response, labral tear, anything that an X-ray probably wouldn't pick up, which would only pick up sort of clean breaks within the bone. It would pick up these sort of secondary minor issues which did have the potential to stop me from running and be quite serious. So good news was that the MRI came back clean, but I was just still dealing with these symptoms. So the classic symptoms that I was having pointed towards a labral tear, which was backed up by the physio and my sports massage. That persistent pain really in the hip joint, both when I'm resting and rotating it around certain planes, really was causing me a bit of pain that a labral tear would have done. So that was quite confusing, and I decided to go to the physio at March time when I got my results back. So from March through to June time, I saw 2 different physios, and they suspected that I was dealing with a number of issues. So I had glute tendinopathy, hamstring tendinopathy, which were secondary causes of whatever this primary issue was in my hip. So we did a lot of rehab on these, and I had some good progress with that. It was targeting strengthening my glutes with the idea that if I'm activating my glutes, reducing an anterior pelvic tilt, that I was running more efficiently and relying less on hip flexors and this hip region becoming sort of out of sync and strained whilst I was running. So that was the logic with that, and I did have, as I said, good success with this. I was getting some pinching in hip flexion. I couldn't really bring basically my knee up towards my chest. I could only get about halfway. So I made some progress there initially with a physio that cleared out a bit of sort of damage within there, and rehab that successfully, but I still had that pain on internal rotation. So when I was sort of trying to move my hip inwards, I was getting a bit of a pain. As I said, that sort of symptom that points towards a labral tear. So eventually, with no sort of breakthrough with doing the physio exercises, I expected that this would clear up the issue, but with no breakthrough in over a month or so after that, it was advised that I go down the doctor's route to try and get another scan and some more opinions on what might be the issue. Maybe something was missed on the initial MRI. So I've gone down that route. I had an X-ray about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, so I'm still awaiting the results from that, and the physio did sort of advise to try and see a hip specialist, potentially, if it didn't pick up anything on the X-ray. So yeah, I'm in a bit of limbo at the moment. I'm still awaiting those results. Still a bit unknown because I feel like I could run. I have been running a couple of times a week, but I have just kept it very sensible and learning from my mistakes in the past, that when I've tried to rush back, build up too quickly in terms of distance, in terms of pace, that it wasn't really helping my hip and it was making it worse. So I feel that I'm pushing it to a level where my hip is comfortable with, and that's, as I say, a couple of runs a week at very easy mile pace. So I'm talking about 8 to 8:30 per mile, so something just over 5-minute kilometres, for around an hour's running tops. I don't really want to push it too much more than that, and really there's no need. I'm not training for anything. I'm not gaining anything from having a higher training load on the running side. All I'm doing is adding more wear and tear on my hip that I'm trying to rehab. So what I have been doing in this time is I've been really enjoying the cross training. I've got into quite a bit more cycling, so now the weather's been a bit better from April time. Basically used to cycle in the shed on Zwift, cancelled my Zwift, and it was the best thing I've done. I've got out there on the roads. You do get motorists on the road, which is not very nice in this country. Don't tend to like cyclists, but if you can sort of put that to one side and enjoy some quieter roads and enjoy the good part, the good weather, and being out in the fresh air, going to see new places, it really has been a great piece of cross training, and something that I've seen progress in, that I've been able to build my distance up in cycling from sort of started at around 30 miles as my longest ride, and more recently I've been 165 miles on a long ride, which took me kind of all day to do. Within that, I've been on holiday and done some climbs within the Pyrenees. I managed to see some of the Tour de France at the back end of June, early July. So it's been really sort of inspiring to see that, and it's kept me motivated when I'm back home cycling to get out on my bike and keep up the cross training. So the cycling's been good. Also swimming has been great for me. I've come from a swimming background throughout school. It's something that I've not really done too consistently in adult life, but in the last sort of 6 to 8 months since I've been injured, I've probably averaged about 3 swims per week, which has been the most consistent I've been with my swimming in adult life, and that's been good to see progress in that too. That when you first get in, it sort of feels very difficult, having to take lots of rest, not going very particularly quickly, and you feel like your technique's a little bit all over the place, but doing it consistently, finding that routine and finding some rhythm in it has been really good. So both the swimming and the cycling have been great for me, with the logic of this that I'm still building my aerobic base, and when I come back to running, this is all going to be transferable to sort of kick me on to the next level in my running. I can come back and I feel like I'll be ready in a place after this injury that I can probably start looking at my PBs straight away, rather than having to build up to that, because I feel that I've got the base fitness. If I can just build up the conditioning in my legs and the specific running fitness, which doesn't take too long to come back, I'm positive that if I can make a return over winter, I can really have a go at some of those PBs that I've been sort of trying to do for the last 3 years but not been quite at it. So where does that leave me from here? So I've had the sort of physio, the doctor's route, and I am, as I've said, a bit in limbo, a bit waiting. So I'm not going to rush things. I'm going to listen to the doctor's advice, what comes out of the x-ray, what I can do, if there's anything medically I can do. I'm going to revisit the physio exercises as well and try and make them stick a bit more. So when I wasn't seeing any progress after I've sort of given up on the physio and gone down the doctor's route, I did then stop doing these exercises. So maybe reintroducing these and just giving it a little bit more patience. It might have just needed a bit longer to sort myself out and get myself fit and ready to run again. So I'll be hitting more of the exercises, I'll be keeping up the cross training, and yeah, just that low impact really. And obviously really pleased with how today's gone. I was didn't really know what to think going into a park run, and going down there, just wanted to see how it was. I ended up that I was fairly near the front of the park run. The first place was quite a long way in front, but I had to put a little bit of effort in really to keep ahead of second, and did a pretty respectable time round not the easiest of courses of 20:37. So if I thought I was going to run that sort of time going into park run this morning, I'd have been over the moon with that. And especially how it felt, I felt that aerobically and my breathing, I know my heart rate was probably a little bit higher. I was sweating quite a lot because it was warm, but I felt in control of my breathing. I didn't feel like I was really at a point where I was fatigued and I was tired and having to stop. And it was more of a limiting factor that I didn't want to push the hip too far and be too greedy with that, and feel like if I wanted to, that sub 20 is probably there next week, the week after, or the next time I decided to park run if I wanted to. So that's a really promising sign, because I thought it might take a little bit of time to work back to running under 20 minutes for park run. So I think that is testament to all the work I've been doing cross training wise with cycling and swimming. So I'm just going to keep that up, keep at it, and as I've said, return to my running in a really positive place. So thanks for watching. I hope you did enjoy that video. I'll be trying to report more regularly now. I've got a little bit more of a routine back. Didn't really have too much to report while the injury was going on, but I'll keep you updated with how my running's going, hopefully on a weekly basis going forward. I'll see you in the next one.